I remember one time coming to someone that I really trusted. And I said, hey, what do you think is true? He said, you know what, whatever you believe is true is what is true. As I started kind of back away and think about that statement, it kind of started to become my foundational worldview. As I started going to senior year, that's when I had a lot of my friends that were starting to question that worldview. A lot of it was like, well, how do you know what you think is true? A question as simple as that, I wasn't really able to answer. So that set in motion this crazy journey of me saying, hey, look, I've got to know what's true, because at the end of the day, you have all these different beliefs, but what's the most important is the one that's actually true. So with that, I was constantly on the internet. I was constantly reading about other religions. A lot of my questions were, how do you know the Bible is legitimate? A lot of the words that Jesus said, how can we know that they were true? Is there any proof, evidence for a creator God that actually created the world? Or was it just a product of natural selection and evolution? After asking questions on end, after meeting with people, it really came down to the deity of Christ. Can the deity of Christ be authenticated? Out of nowhere, I'm just laying on my bed alone, and I say, God, if you are real, please help me. Right after I pray, I get this sense of going and picking up a book that I hadn't picked up in the longest time. I open it to a random page. The page talks about a particular situation where a man lost his job, and that all he needed was faith the size of a mustard seed, and that all things would be possible. And immediately I began to have hope. Immediately I began to have hope that there was a creator out there, because I told myself, I have faith the size of a mustard seed. I had gone through this huge journey of trying to find what is true. And I had finally come to a point where I said, God isn't so distant where I can't have a relationship with him. So immediately I had this desire to go to church. I'm sitting through the message, and the pastor goes through, he talks very specifically on why Jesus was God. The message that I had been asking for the longest time. The final piece that I needed to know if he was true, if I could rely on the Bible, if I could rely and place all of my faith and all my trust in him as God, as creator, as savior. And there was a radical change in me from that day. My mind thought differently. My attitude was different for the world. My relationships were different. My desires and what I wanted to do was entirely different. There was this overwhelming sense of joy that I had, that I was an individual that was lost and now was reconciled with my creator. It was an amazing thing. It was one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. Christianity answers the fundamental questions of where I came from, what my purpose is, and where I'm going. You have a lot of people that have a lot of arguments against Christianity, but I'd ask you to look at the other side of things and make sure that you investigate both sides thoroughly. Because at the end of the day, I'm confident that when you look at things objectively, from an evidence and logical basis, that you're going to find that the Bible and Christianity upholds the highest amount of scrutiny. There is a way to actually know truth, and it's through a relationship with Jesus Christ.